To me, Global Reach Out is inspiring.
Is connecting with God, reaching out to the world, and impacting life.
The stories that are shared is so personal and it deeply impacted me.
Global Reach Out to me is reach out to the truth.
Connecting hearts, connecting lives. You're listening to Global Reach Out.
Hello friends, a very warm welcome from Global Reach Out. Today, we begin a new series called Effective Leadership.
Hi everyone. I'm so glad you are tuning in today. My name is Ayan Muri, and I am so excited to be speaking with you on a critical subject that encompasses and affects, I would say, every area of life. That's right. I'm talking about leadership. Now, isn't it true that the COVID-19 pandemic, which swept the world about a year ago, has changed the world from normal to new normal? We have been witnessing unprecedented disruptions, uncertainties, and anxieties. And so, the universal cry for effective political, business, and Christian leaders who can lead their countries, companies, and churches respectively is totally understandable. And for that reason, effective leadership is desperately needed to help people navigate life's unexpected challenges, guided by a sense of moral purpose. And here is the thing. Anyone, that's right, anyone who is serious about effective or more effective leadership will sooner or later be confronted with the following pivotal questions. Here they are. 1. What is effective leadership all about? Does having a position, title, make a person an effective or impactful leader? 3. What are some of the calculus and metrics of an effective leader? 4. What are some observable traits or mindset of an ineffective leader? 5. What are some skill sets required to be an effective leader? 6. How to develop a leadership presence? 7. What are some habits of an effective leader? And there are many more. Did you know that surprisingly, some of these questions are answered by a man who is an effective leader found in the scriptures? His name? That's right, Nehemiah. Nehemiah. In the book of Nehemiah, he demonstrates and practices what effective leadership is all about. Now, all who claim to be effective leaders should be able to make things happen and to get things done. Let me say that again. All who claim to be effective leaders should be able to make things happen and to get things done. And the inability to do so is at worst that person is not a leader, or at best an ineffective leader. From the book of Nehemiah, we can learn some of the best effective biblical leadership principles, as well as extrapolating strategic insights that are, I would say, pertinent, practical, and powerful for any inspiring, emerging, and even established leaders. Now, added to that, the book of Nehemiah lays out at least 7 most essential DNA of an effective leader and how to make things happen and get things done. Hence, we have called the book Nehemiah Model, Getting Things Done, and making things happen. Now, in this journey, we will exegete, expound, and extrapolate leadership principles from the book of Nehemiah, as well as examine relevant leadership issues in conversation with leadership experts. Now, I want to make one thing very clear, and that is this. The primary focus of this podcast will not be on leadership theories. There are plenty. They are plentiful, but rather on effective leadership. That's right, on effective leadership. We are interested in leadership that makes a difference, that impacts, influences, inspires, and transforms others. At the same time, we hope to debunk some leadership myths that have been floating around like buzzing bees. To begin with, let me give you a working definition of effective biblical leadership that is informed by Scripture, shaped by biblical values, and underpinned by sound and solid theology. Here it is, and I quote, "A leader is a spirit-empowered servant with a sense of destiny, backed by a call from God to use his or her God-given ability and responsibility to influence others towards God's purposes for the good of the followers and the glory of God." End quote, by Reverend Dr. Anthony Yeo. Leadership matters. Leadership is not one of the most important matters. Rather, it is the most important matter. Without effective leadership, any country, organization, or institution can be chaotic and messy. Leadership, therefore, can be summarized in two broad statements. And that is this: getting things done and making things happen. I call this the Nehemiah leadership principle. In other words, it is basically getting things done and making things happen. And for this to happen, a leader must be able to influence, inspire, and impact the followers. He or she must be able to influence. The ability of an individual to influence others to contribute to achieve some goals, be it time, talents, or treasures. This is what I believe defines a true leader. Nothing more, nothing less. The greater the leadership, the greater the influence. And in the same tone, the weaker the leadership, the weaker the influence. When Nehemiah heard about the broken walls from his brother, he decided to do something about it. He started a project known as Operation Rebuilding. He left his comfort zone as an official wine taster in the Persian court and took a leave of absence from his comfortable job and mobilized a group of demoralized people to rebuild the broken city walls in Jerusalem. Broken walls. That's right. Broken walls signified national crisis because they made the city vulnerable to attacks. Walls, you must understand, walls in those days offered protection from raids and represented peace. During the rebuilding of the walls, Nehemiah encountered opposition and obstacles externally and internally. Yet, he persevered to the end. Under his successful leadership, Mission Impossible became Mission Possible because God was in it, the people worked at it, and Nehemiah exercised effective and efficient leadership. As a result, what happened? As a result, and against all odds, the rebuilding of the walls was completed in 52 record days. What an accomplishment! I mean, even the enemies grudgingly accepted that it was the work of God. Under his successful leadership, Nehemiah also mediated a financial crisis, took registration, repopulated Jerusalem, appointed gatekeepers, Levites, and officials, initiated reforms and spiritual renewal with Ezra the scribe, and reorganized civic responsibilities. His life and work is an excellent demonstration of what successful leadership is all about. Now, what interests us is why was Nehemiah so successful in his rebuilding project despite internal and external opposition? What was the secret of his success? What are some of the Nehemiah principles of successful leadership that we can learn from him for today? What was, in other words, his winning formula? And that is what we are going to find out. So, my friends, dear listeners, be prepared to be provoked, inspired, and surprised. Some of the principles on successful leadership which we will discover from the book of Nehemiah include the Nehemiah factor, that is, keys to inspire, impact, and influence followers. The Nehemiah formula, that is, starting a project and completing it successfully. The Nehemiah breakthrough, that is, the power of persistence and priority in the midst of difficult situations. The Nehemiah balance, that is, maintaining a spiritual and practical equilibrium. Finally, the Nehemiah leadership, that is, the art and science of getting things done and making things happen. So it is my conviction that by applying the powerful Nehemiah practical principles and proven paradigms, we can experience effective leadership success and breakthrough, as well as transitioning from average to good and good to great leadership. That's right, to great leadership. And this brings us to the end of our first session. Stay tuned for session 2. Until then, goodbye.
And that's this week's episode of the Effective Leadership Program, brought to you by Global Reach Out. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.